joining the webinar today. My name is Stephanie Hauk. I am the Associate Director of Exhibit Operations here at J. Spargo & Associates. And my coworker, Eileen McGill, and myself manage the operations of the Oncology Professionals Hall at the ASCO annual meeting. At any point in time through your process of preparation for the meeting, please feel free to contact either one of us, and if we don't have the answers to your question, we will gladly put you in contact with the correct person that will be able to assist you. The webinar today will be providing you with an overview of the Exhibitor Resource Center for the 2014 ASCO annual meeting. I will not be going over anything regarding to the Exhibitor Service Manual today. That information will be included in a webinar being presented on Wednesday, April 9th, being co-presented with Freeman. So before I get started, I just wanted to go over a few housekeeping items. The webinar today is being recorded. I will send you the recorded, I believe it's a link to the recorded webinar along with the final slide deck, hopefully by the end of the day today, if not by the end of the day tomorrow. And you are welcome to share that with coworkers, with contractors that are working with you, anyone that you feel would benefit from this information. I have included some slides with question breaks throughout the presentation. So I'll stop after a few points to see if there are any questions, as well as a final question slide at the very end of the presentation. You are able to submit your questions for me to answer during the webinar, or you may email me directly should you have any questions you'd like answered offline or that you think of following the meeting. My contact information is included in this webinar. This webinar is the first in a series that we will be presenting prior to the meeting. I do have information in this presentation on the next webinar, which we'll get into in a little bit. The webinar schedule will be included in the ASCO Exhibitor monthly newsletter. And we will also be sending out a separate invitation for each webinar to the contact for each exhibit. So with all those housekeeping issues taken care of, I am going to go ahead and jump into the presentation. So again, my name is Stephanie Hauk. For those of you that I don't know or haven't worked with in the past, I've been working on the meeting since 2008, so I'm pretty familiar with all things ASCO annual meeting. And again, if there's something that I'm not able to answer, I will certainly put you in touch with the correct parties. So we do have quite a bit to go over today, and I'm hoping that the information that I've included in the slides that I'll send you after the presentation will answer questions that, maybe of some things that you missed during the presentation. So today we are going to review logging in to the Exhibitor Resource Center and what you see when you log in, updating exhibitor directory information, exhibitor registration and booth personnel. I'm just going to touch on this very briefly. The next webinar will be the one that's on exhibitor registration. Exhibitor forms, the required forms, the approval and denial notification, and then just showing you how to get into Freeman online ordering and the benefits of ordering your services online. So by now, you should have already received, whether it was in the email that we sent out on February 5th, or if you were confirmed as an exhibitor after that date, it would have come in your confirmation letter. So you should have the link to the Exhibitor Resource Center. By entering your password, it will give you access to update exhibitor directory information, register for your badges, and then other required exhibitor forms. Now, as you see here, there is something new for ASCO this year that I'm not very familiar with. One of our project managers is going to send out an email at a later date of one of the buttons in the Exhibitor Resource Center called Managing Products. We're not quite ready to move forward with that yet. It's nothing that affects the printed exhibitor directory. It's just something that we're adding for an online information this year. So you will be receiving information on that and how to complete that information at a later date. So I apologize if this is going to get a little sketchy. I'm going to get out of the presentation and get into the system and log in. So this slide is, and I'm using ASCO as an example here, this is part of what you're going to see when you log in. Oops, sorry. So I am going to go ahead and log in right now as ASCO. And they have a number of booths that will fall in here. So when you log into the Exhibitor Resource Center, you're going to come to a landing page that gives you a kind of an overwhelming amount of information talking about all of the required forms and any of the exhibitor forms that you can find in here. Now, for ASCO, they have 5, I believe it is 5 booths that fall under their record. So if you have more than one booth or a booth in a meeting room, you're going to see different options here. So you want to make sure when you're filling in your information that you're completing it for the correct booth. So I'm going to work through the ASCO Central booth today. So we're going to, actually, I think I'm going to go in here. We're going to go in and look at the exhibitor directory information. So the first thing that you're going to do is click on Edit Booth Info. Now this organization has a basic listing. So here is where you will, make sure that your information is accurate. Your address, phone number, this is where you'll put in the website that you'll like posted that's available online, and I believe in the mobile iPlanner. And then for basic listings, you have the ability to select one cancer type or product service category. If you have upgraded, sorry, let me get to that. If you have upgraded your directory, those product and services categories and the written paragraphs that you can put in will increase based on the directory upgrade that you've received or that you've purchased. So for this company, they have a basic listing. You would, if everything is correct, you just go ahead and hit save. If you want to make any changes, you can go ahead and complete that, put in your URL, and you'll see here that it says that you do need to include the HTTP : // etc. That has to be included in all, or it's not going to accept the URL that you put in. And then you, again, have the ability to select the cancer type or categories that will be listed in your online profile, that will be available in the mobile iPlanner, and also listed in the printed exhibitor directory. Going back to the slide, the deadline for inclusion of your information for the printed directory is March 21st. There are other deadlines for the mobile iPlanner those are a little later because we do a few updates to that as we get closer to the meeting. I believe the last deadline is in early May. So the next piece is on exhibitor registration. And the next webinar that we are presenting will be on exhibitor registration. Members of the registration team will be doing the presentation on Wednesday, March 19th at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The link to the invitation was included in the February newsletter. We will be sending out an email with an invitation early next week, so please look for that. And again, members of our registration team will be able to kind of go over those things a little bit. So I'm going to switch back here into this company record. So I'm going to click on the booth personnel link here. Now, for this company, they've already started the, they've already logged in and set up their what we call ECO or exhibit contact record. But normally what would happen is when you click booth registration, if you've never gotten to that page before, there's going to be a button up here that says log in. You'll click on that, and then it will ask you to complete some information for the exhibit contact. So they'll be the one that's kind of managing the registration process. So again, this piece is going to be touched on in a completely separate webinar. But when you first log in, it'll ask you, let me get back to this, it will ask you to select what your badge pickup preference is, if it's going to be picked up by one leader and setting an appointment time, or if the individuals will be picking theirs up. The early registration deadline is Wednesday, April 23rd. This deadline really only affects any exhibitor attendee or attendee badges. If you're just getting exhibitor-only badges within your allotment, you know, you really have up until we open registration on site, which is May the 28th, to take care of those. So this early registration is really intended more for something that's going to cost you, like an exhibitor attendee badge or an attendee badge. But again, I'm going to defer to my colleagues in registration to go over this. So next, we're going to take a look at the exhibitor forms. And the next few slides, I'm going to touch on kind of what the forms are and some deadlines. So forms that are required by everyone, there are three. The first is the giveaway request and the booth activity request form. Those deadlines are Friday, March 21st. The next would be the on-site contact form, and that deadline is Wednesday, April 23rd. And exhibitor forms that are required by exhibits that are 400 square feet or larger is the booth rendering and the hanging item request. And I'll go into the details of these forms and what's required when I talk on each individual form. There are additional forms that you can submit online if they're applicable to you. The notification of intent to use an EAC or non-official contractor form is in there. We do not do a paper form for that. So all of that is handled through this online portal. And then the next three forms are all new online forms for 2014. And they would be the photography, video, and audio recording approval form, the request for fundraising approval form, and the use of the ASCO or Conquer Cancer Foundation name form. So just a note, kind of another little housekeeping issue for this year. There is a new kind of updated giveaway policy with the signing into law of the Patient Protection and Affordable Health Care Act that included the Physician Payment Sunshine Act, which requires pharmaceutical, medical device, biological, and medical supply manufacturers to report to Health and Human Services any payment or transfer of value to physicians and teaching hospitals that exceeds $10 in value. Based on these regulations, ASCO's exhibits will be considered a non-report zone, which is why the giveaway values may not exceed $10. So that's different for 2014. So regardless of if you're a nonprofit, a commercial, a government agency, your giveaway item may not exceed $10 in value. So here is a list of giveaways that, provided they do not exceed $10 in value, you do not need to submit a giveaway form for. So medical textbooks, product company brochures, pamphlets and information, patient assessment tools, videos and CDs, educational posters. Now the posters, just remember that will fall under the abstract policies. Educational monographs, anatomical models, so on and so forth. The deadline to submit the giveaway form is Friday, March the 21st. Giveaways are required by all exhibitors. So for commercial exhibitors, again, your giveaway cannot exceed $10 in value, and it must be designed primarily for the education of patients or healthcare professionals. And the giveaways must be available to all registered attendees immediately upon request. So for commercial exhibitors, you are not permitted to give away pens, notepads, clips, refillable like canteens or bottles, things like that. So you're not allowed to give away what I would call a reminder item. Your pieces must be educational and for patients or healthcare providers. Nonprofit and government agencies still fall under that $10 in value, still must be able to provide their giveaway immediately to any registered attendee upon request, but they do not have the educational piece. So a nonprofit is permitted to give away a pen, notepad, clips, any of those things. So I just want to show you some things in the form. So I'm going to go ahead, back out, and get out of registration. So I'm in the Exhibitor Resource Center. I'm going to click on Required Forms. Actually, I think I'm going to go back into ASCO's record. Sorry about that. I'm going to go into ASCO's record. So when you get down to the exhibitor forms, it's going to list all of these forms here. Now, again, for an inline booth, a 10 by 10, a 10 by 20, the hanging item request, the booth rendering is not required. But the on-site contact, giveaways, booth activities are required by all. So for the giveaways, and I'm sorry, it looks like my internet connection is a little slow today. You would go in here and complete your information, contact name, email, submit information on the individual giveaway, so you have the option of submitting up to 5 giveaways. If you're an organization that's not going to give anything away, or is going to give something away that was on that list of items that do not require pre-approval, you would input your information up here, click on No, and then hit Submit at the bottom. If you are an organization that, you're going to submit, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but that you're going to submit something for example, a nonprofit wants to submit pens, logoed pens for review. They would input their name, phone, email, put in here pens, organization pens with logo, and then whatever the declared dollar value would be of that piece. If they would like to provide us with an example of that piece, you can upload a file here, and that will attach to your record for us to take a look at. So just as a note, after you upload the file, after you select your file, after you attach it, you just need to make sure you hit that upload button. And then it'll, where currently it says no file chosen, it will show in red view file or something like that. So you'll see that the file has been attached. Now, towards the end of the presentation, I'm going to go over this, but while we're in this page, I want to show you. Once we have reviewed your giveaways, we will go in on our side, on the administrative side, and click yes or no to your items that have been submitted for review. And we will also be able to write any comments here. Like if you're a commercial exhibitor and you've submitted a giveaway request for a pen, we'll put a note in here saying, sorry, that's not permitted, and a little more explanation. So again, I'll get to that more in other forms. So once you've submitted your form, it's going to say here, submitted. So I didn't go in and submit anything. It doesn't say that right now. And same thing with all your forms. So you're going to know if it was submitted, if it was successful, if it says submitted here. One of the things that people sometimes run into a challenge with when they're submitting their information, their forms, is exceeding the character count in the fillable field. So just make note that there's a character limit in each field. So I would say probably 9 times out of 10, that's the challenge, that's the problem. If your submission didn't go through, it's probably because you've exceeded a character count. So catering and food and beverage is not considered a giveaway. It's actually considered a booth activity. So the booth activity form must be submitted as well. While I'm touching here on food and beverage, just want to know that all food and beverage provided by individuals must be of minimal value and available to all registered attendees upon request. Cash or cash equivalent, coupons, vouchers, gift cards are not permitted. Also, Savor is the exclusive provider of food and beverage at McCormick Place. No food and beverage may be brought into the facility unless it falls under the guidelines of the personal consumption policy, meaning if you went out to grab something to eat and brought it back for yourself into the hall, you'd be permitted to do that. All food and beverage used to generate booth traffic, service exhibit staff, and so on must be catered by Savor. So, oops, sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself a little bit. Are there any questions right now on the giveaway form before I move forward? There is one. So to be clear, as a nonprofit that wants to provide 3 different promotional items, they are each valued less than $10. Should we or should we not complete the giveaway form for each of the 3? So yes, you will need to complete the form for each of the 3. So there is the ability in here to submit up to 5 giveaway items. So there's item 1, item 2, item 3, all the way down to 5. So yes, they will need to be submitted as 3 individual pieces. Okay, so I'm going to go into the booth activity form. So booth activities, a booth activity is not considered passing out flyers, talking to attendees, showing a video on a screen in your booth. So you do not need to submit something like that as a booth activity. Below are some examples of something that you would submit as an activity. Now, this is not all things that would be submitted. There are many more, but I'm just giving you some information, some examples. Catering, in-booth food and beverage hospitality, fundraising or collecting of donations activities such as, for example, if you have a promotion or an activity in your booth that for every exhibitor who allows you to scan their badge through the lead devices, you will donate $5 to the Conquer Cancer Foundation. That is considered fundraising or donation activity. And we'll go over that a little bit when I talk about that form towards the end of the presentation. Quizzes, contests, and raffles, survey, product demonstrations. Prohibited activities are group presentations. So you are not permitted to have a group presentation. You can't have theater-style seating in your booth. No group presentations. They need to be more of a one-on-one. The deadline to submit that form is Friday, March the 21st. So the submission of that form is very, very similar to giveaway form. And I'm going to bring it up just so you can see it. Well, it would have helped, I think, if I clicked on the right form. Sorry about that. But the form is very similar to the giveaway form. So there's some instructions here that you can click on. It's linked. Same thing in giveaways. It gives you a little more information on what's considered an activity. And it's the same thing if you're not going to be doing anything. If you don't have any planned activity, you're just going to be, talking to people as they come up, giving them product information, something like that. You would fill in the top 3 fields and then just click No Activities and hit Submit at the bottom. If you are submitting activities, you'll input all that information here, the name of the activity, a fuller description, anything that you think would help us, gauge whether your activity is acceptable, that it would be, help us through the review process. You would do that here. And then once we review your activity, we would go in and, indicate yes or no here. The system does not generate an automatic email to you letting you know that we've reviewed that. I'll touch on it when we get a little further on in the presentation. So any questions on the booth activity form? No. Okay. Moving forward. On-site contact forms, pretty easy. And this is the form that normally people have. This and the EAC form are usually the ones that people have a little challenge with as far as exceeding the characters. Pretty straightforward. On-site contact form. This is due on Wednesday, April 23rd. And it is, the reason that we ask for these, it is important for us to have a way to reach the person that's our on-site contact. There was an instance, I think it was 2 years ago, where someone's light had fallen, a 10 by 10 booth, their light kind of broke off and fell into their back wall, into their display, and started a little smolder, little fire. Luckily, a neighboring exhibitor saw it, got security, it was all taken care of, but that contact enabled us to reach the person that we needed to get to, saying, you might want to come back because you're going to need to do a little touch-up on your booth. So the first part is the person that will be on site that we would reach out to, and that is sometimes different than the person that's handling the arrangements and everything. And then there is also a home office contact information. So if we are unable to reach the on-site contact, we will get in touch with the home office contact. So again, here's why it's important to give us information that we can use to reach out to someone if we need to get a hold of them. So this is the 3 forms that are required by all. The next form is the booth rendering form. The renderings are required for all booths 400 square feet or larger. That deadline to submit is Friday, March 21st as well. If you are an inline booth, you do not need to go in here and hit no rendering or not applicable. We will know that that you're not on our targeted list to make sure that we get a rendering from. So, if you're an inline booth, 10 by 10, 10 by 20, something like that, you don't even need to touch this form. So here you will submit your information. There's some more instructions here. Submit the information. So this is the person we're going to go back to if we have a question on the rendering. If we can't tell if items are set back 2 feet, we can't tell what the height is, this is the person that we're going to be working with on getting some clarification on the rendering. So you have the ability to input or upload 2 files. And then down here is where you'll see whether it's been approved or not, and then any feedback from our team. Any questions on the rendering form? I'm sorry, I did miss a question earlier. Let me go into this. Can we provide candy at the booth? Is permission required? If you are just going to have a bowl of, a little bowl of candy individually wrapped, like Hershey's Kisses, Lifesaver, something like that, no, you do not need to submit that as a giveaway, and that does not need to go through Saver. Can we, and I'm sorry, this is a booth activity question, can we promote a physician being available at our booth for questions at a specific time? Is this considered a presentation? Let me get back to you on that one. I'll ask you some more questions on it, and then I may defer to ASCO for some guidance on that. So I will follow up with you offline on that. Do we have to get a physician's name and contact information to record coffees, cookies, and gifts? That's not a question that I can answer for you. That's really part of your company compliance. It is not an ASCO policy. So if you fall under the provisions of the Physicians Payment Sunshine Act, and that's something that you're required to do, then to comply with federal guidelines, then yes. But again, it's not something that unfortunately that I can really give you an answer on. Well, I am sorry that I missed some of these questions. I didn't scroll down. If we are using live marketing with greeters, what form do we submit? Nancy, I will have to get back to you on that one because I'm not quite sure what you're referring to, so I will follow up with you offline. can we submit a booth rendering for a 10 by 10? If you would like us to take a look at your 10 by 10 rendering just to ensure that you are in compliance with our inline booth rules, you are most definitely welcome to, but you are not required to. Okay, sorry about that. I am all caught up on questions now. So we are going to move forward into the hanging item request form. Very similar to the booth rendering form. The only difference is that you will have, there's a few more questions, and you'll have the option of clicking no rigging or no hanging. So you are not allowed to hang anything for inline booth. So any inline booth is not permitted to have any hanging signs, lighting, truss, none of that. Hanging items include hanging signs, lighting that will be hung from the ceiling, and truss work that's hung from the ceiling. The maximum height of a hanging sign or messaging is 20 feet from the exhibit floor. The lighting and truss work may exceed 20 feet provided there's no messaging on it. It's just the truss, the chain, the motors, those things. Installation of these items must be complete by 4:30 p.m. on Friday, May 30th. Now that is the same timing as last year, but is a change from 2012 back. We used to have rigging completed by the end of the day on Memorial Day. But with our switch to Freeman from the previous contractor, they've worked it out so we don't have a set time other than when we require all booths to be installed. The deadline to submit your hanging item request form is Friday, March 21st. So just going to show you the form quick. Very similar form. If you're a booth and you're not going to be hanging everything, that all your structure is built from the ground up, nothing going to the ceiling, you just fill in the top 3 fields, click no, scroll down to the bottom, hit submit. If you are going to have hanging signs, lighting, truss, all of that, you will need to fill in the top 3 forms, fill in the item that you're going to be hanging, or the items, hanging signs, truss, whatever. Put in here how high anything's going to be from the floor, and then you must submit a to-scale floor plan of the items of that rigging plan. You'll submit those like other files, and then down here is where you'll see where input information after we review. Any questions on the hanging sign request form? Okay. So the approval and denial process notification. Approval process, we're going to go in, like I was explaining, and submit or, click yes or no under each item. And then if there are any notes, we will type them in that comment section. We will also send you an email saying, we've reviewed your giveaway, your rendering, your this, your that. You've been approved. If your item has been denied, we will go in and under each item submitted, we will click no. Some of your items may be yes, some may be no, and then in the comment section at the bottom, we'll put a little note. We will also follow up with an email saying, okay, this particular item is not approved, and this is why. So you will get email notification on that. And then if there's anything that we need some further clarification on, if we have some questions on your rendering, we will be in touch with you, either email or phone, to go over those questions with you. The next is on the notification of intent to use an EAC or non-official contractor. There's actually quite a few slides on these. An exhibitor-appointed contractor is a company other than one of our official contractors who are going to be providing service and requiring access to your booth during move-in and move-out hours. So that is some installation and dismantle labor, production setup, floral, photography, audiovisual vendors, computer rental, and other related services. The deadline to submit this form is Wednesday, April 23rd. And included in this form, you must also, by Wednesday, April 23rd, upload that contractor's certificate of liability insurance. So just quickly, here's a list of the official contractors that we have for ASCO. They are also included in the exhibitor service manual under, I think, official vendors. But here they are, just so you know. Any communications that you receive from our exhibitor, our vendors, our contractors, that is like a marketing piece saying, hey, you know, the meeting's coming up. Here's our order form. We're the official. There is going to be an official contractor logo that's going to be on there. So if you're getting actually solicitations from other companies, please be wary that unless they have that logo, and it's not really similar to this, but it is a special logo. If you're getting other things and they're saying they're the official, they are not. And please, if you think of it, forward that information to me so we can follow up with them and, you know, ask them to cease representing themselves as such. So here's the continued list of contractors. Through the notification of intent to use an EAC form, you can upload up to 5 EACs. There are some exhibitors who are going to exceed that. So what you'll do is input the 5 and then send me an email with the other 2, 3, 4, or whatever they are. And that works well. I just include them on my final list that I submit to security and to McCormick Place. So you are required to, in the form, upload the certificate of liability insurance. You do not have to do that. Let me back that up. I'm sorry. You need to upload a certificate of liability insurance for the EAC. So if you're using XYZ exhibit installation company, you'll fill in all their information, and then at some point before April 23rd, you're going to need to update or upload, or they're going to have to upload, if you give them your password, their certificate of liability insurance that we do review to ensure that it complies with our requirements. So on that certificate of liability insurance, there is a list of 6 that need to be included as additional insured. There is information on exhibitor-appointed contractor requirements in the exhibitor manual as well as in this form, so I'll show you that in just a minute. The insurance must include comprehensive general liability with limits no less than $1 million, product and contractual liability, and workman's comp in accordance with laws in the state of Illinois. We do ask that on that certificate of liability insurance that it is noted what exhibiting company and booth numbers you're working on. So if you're an EAC, if there are EACs on this call and you're working on multiple booths, you can submit one form under, you know, you just need to prepare one certificate of insurance, but list all the clients that you're working with. If there is any missing information on the form, if the insurance information is not complete, we will be back in contact with either the exhibitor or the EAC and according to what we need. All EAC non-official contractor personnel need to be properly identified with wristbands on move-in and move-out days or the official meeting badge on show site. And additional information on the banding process, how that's going to work for the EACs to get the wristbands, will be sent a few weeks before the meeting. And then this is an important note for exhibitors. Exhibitor personnel, including the EACs you may have hired or contracted with to work in your booth, may not solicit outside of the booth or anywhere else in the meeting venue, including at educational or scientific session rooms, poster sessions, and may not canvass in any part of the Oncology Professionals Hall or McCormick Place. So I'm going to go in and show you this form quick. I'm going to try to, we don't have a lot left. This is probably the biggest piece here. So up here, if you were to click on this, it's going to bring up the instructions and what's required on the form, and it's also going to provide you with a sample certificate of insurance here. So all that information is here. It's also included in the exhibitor manual, and it's also in Freeman's part of the manual. So you just go in here, put the contractor's name, don't need address, don't need any of that, just the XYZ labor, the service that they're providing, the supervisor's name, supervisor's email, and phone number. And then this here is where you would attach this company's certificate of liability insurance. You can go in and do one at a time. You can do two of them and come back and do more later. Just whenever you're done, you know, a process in here, you know, you've gone in and submitted, you've input the information for two, please make sure that you hit submit. Then you can go back in later and the supervisor's changed. You can update, put more in, you know, if you've decided now you're going to use a vendor for labor, but you weren't going to, you're going to try to do it yourself, you can go in at a later time and do that. So all EACs, all contractors must also be authorized to work in McCormick Place as what they call an event contractor. Majority of the larger installation and dismantle houses are already an approved contractor to work in the building. But for more information, this is probably something that you want to pass on to your vendor. They will need to go into the McCormick Place page, submit some information, or they can contact Alicia Johnson directly with McCormick Place and see if they are already on the list. We will be submitting the EAC list to McCormick Place a few weeks prior to the meeting, and they check that list against their master list. And if there are any organizations on there on our EAC list that are not considered an official event contractor at McCormick Place, then they will reach out to them and say, you need to do this, this, and this, or you're not going to be allowed to work in the building. So just heads up on that. Any questions on the EAC form? If no contractor is hired, do we have to provide certificate of liability insurance? No. If you are not using a contractor, you're doing all the work yourselves, or you're using our officials. You're using Freeman. You're using TLC for floral. You're using Freeman AV. You do not need to submit that form at all. That's only if you're using a third party that's not listed as one of our officials. If you're doing the work yourself based upon the exhibitor bill of rights in that building, you do not need to submit any insurance on that. I think that's it for questions on that one. New forms for 2014. First one is photography, video, and audio recording approval form. Exhibitors must obtain approval from ASCO to photograph, videotape, and or audio tape in the exhibit hall. If you are not using, so if you're not using an official contractor, you will be required to order a security escort. You will also be required to submit a notification of intent to use an EAC form and complete a special access form. So if you're not using an official contractor to videotape or audio tape, you need to submit the approval form. Well, let me back that up. Regardless, if you're doing any recording, photo, video, audio, you need to submit the form. it's going to ask you who your or if you're using the official. If you're not, there are other steps that you need to take. And then we will, normally what will happen is we'll send you out the special access form once the other forms are submitted, the EAC and the approval form. So let me just show you that form here. So again, information up here, the date and time of the session, the photo session, the video session. If there are multiple dates and times, put all those in there. Are you using the official? Yes, no. We will check. If you tell us that you're going to use the official, we will confirm with him at some point that, he has been contracted. Services provided, and then here's just a note here. If you're not using the official, here's what you need to do. And then photography, filming, audio taping is permitted in the Oncology Professionals Hall only. You are not permitted to do anything outside of the exhibit hall. So everything has to be done within the exhibit hall. The deadline to submit this form is Wednesday, April 23rd. So our next form is the request for fundraising approval form. Any exhibitor wishing to engage in a fundraising activity will need to submit this form. Donations equal fundraising. So like I talked about in booth activities, if you're doing some call to action and that if they bring in a postcard, a pre-mailer saying stop by our booth, and for everyone that brings in this mailer, we're going to donate $2 to Conquer Cancer Foundation or something else. This needs to be submitted for review and approval. ASCO and the Conquer Cancer Foundation will review this. And you also need to submit a booth activity. So this is a two-part. There needs to be a booth activity for this and a fundraising approval form for this. So if, we'll check the booth activities, and if there wasn't a fundraising request for it, we're not going to approve it. If there's a fundraising request and no booth activity, we're not going to approve it. We're going to kick it back to you and say, hey, you did one part, you need to do the other. So this needs to be submitted by Wednesday, April 23rd. Use of the ASCO or Conquer Cancer Foundation name. Exhibitors must obtain prior written approval to use the American Society of Clinical Oncology or Conquer Cancer Foundation names, marks, brands, logos, etc. at or around the 2014 ASCO annual meeting. This form must be submitted for review and prior approval of the proposed use. The deadline to submit this is Wednesday, April 23rd. I am going to show you this form quickly. Sorry, I don't mean to be kind of running through these so quickly, but I don't know that these are really applicable to everyone. So here is the form, contact information, advertising agency if applicable, how that piece is going to be used. If you selected other, put that in here. Are you going to send this piece as a mailer? Yes, no. And then any items that need to be reviewed. And then we will pull the information, send to ASCO and the foundation for review and approval. Any questions on those forms? Do we need to submit a request if we are just taking pictures of our booth and staff? So if you're taking pictures before the meeting, before the exhibit's open, and you're it's you just getting general pictures of the booth, no. But if it's something that you're going to use for promotional materials, other pieces, then yes, you will. If you're bringing in a film crew, absolutely, because security is not going to let that film crew in without that special access form. So, you know, if you're just using your iPhone or your Galaxy or whatever to take some pictures, that's fine. But if you're going more of a professional route, I would suggest that you submit that form just to make sure that your bases are covered. I feel like there was another one in here, but I hit a button and now I can't find it. Is approval needed if our staff is taking photography or video? Same thing. I think, let me retract my earlier statement. If you're doing anything other than just taking pictures for personal use, I would submit that form, because security knows that if they see somebody taking pictures, they're going to ask you to stop if you're not on list, don't have a security escort, something. So if you're taking pictures for more than just personal use with your phone, then yes, you need to submit that form. Okay, last piece, and I'm going to try to be really quick with this, is Freeman online ordering, is accessible through the Exhibitor Resource Center. Order by Monday, May 5th to take advantage of advanced order discounts rates. Additional discount is available on many items by placing your order online by May 5th. So let me just show you here. Right here it says Freeman Online Ordering. When you click on that, oops, it shouldn't do that. It may not let me do it now because I've been logged in for a while. Okay, so it's going to take you to one of two pages. If you're already have a record with Freeman, it should take you to this page. If you've not previously done ordering with Freeman for an ASCO meeting, it's going to ask you to fill in some information, just some basic contact information. I'm not going to go over how to do any ordering. That'll be done on our April 9th webinar. But this is where you go. You have direct access from the Exhibitor Resource Center. You can also access it through the Exhibitor manual. You would just then need to log in. You should have a username and password from perhaps previous meetings that you've worked on, so it's not going to be a direct portal into here. All right. So last round of questions. Anybody have any additional questions right now? Oh, here's one, sorry. Audio, does a photography, video, audio recording approval form need to be completed for impromptu, unplanned photos taken by individuals by cell phones? No, if you're just taking a photo for your individual personal use, no, you don't need to submit that form. But if you're doing anything else with a professional camera, whether it's yourself, a staff member, a company that you're bringing in, that form does need to be filled out. Trying to see if I've missed any questions. Holly, I see your question. I'm going to touch base with you on that one offline. I think I've gotten all of the questions. I'm going to go through this when I'm done and make sure that I've answered everyone's. So if there are no further questions, I want to thank you for participating today. Please feel free to contact myself or Eileen with any questions. The phone number there is my direct number. That email address Eileen and I share, so either one of us can get with you. And our next webinar is on exhibitor registration. which will be on Wednesday, March 19th. That'll be presented by our registration team. The link here, and you'll see this in the final presentation that I sent to you, you can go ahead in here and register for the webinar in 2 weeks. So again, I want to thank everyone for participating today, and we look forward to seeing you in Chicago. Thank you.